What really happened in Hitler's bunker during his final 24 hours? Why did he suddenly marry Eva Braun when he knew death was coming? Which trusted ally's betrayal drove him to the breaking point? And what shocking piece of evidence finally proved to the world that Adolf Hitler was truly dead? The answers will disturb you. Welcome back to a new episode. Before taking his own life on April 30th, 1945, Adolf Hitler and his mistress Eva Braun burned all their documents, photos, everything. Hitler didn't want anything to be left behind. At that time, no one knew what exactly had happened inside the bunker before Hitler's death. But now, more than 70 years later, some new political and personal documents of Hitler have come to light, thanks to a now deceased French officer, Commandant Raymond Rose, and a private archive. These unique documents, now revealed for the first time, provide a clearer understanding of the final moments of Hitler's life. But what they reveal is more twisted than anyone imagined. After Hitler's death, everyone was desperate to see and understand what happened in the bunker. On November 25, 1945, French officer Commandant Raymond Rose entered the bunker. To go inside, he had to descend 26 steps into a dark room. What he found there was a dim, filthy space with papers scattered everywhere, furniture overturned, and candle wax melted onto the floor. Rose found documents that shed new light on Hitler's final days. These documents reveal that Hitler remained firm in his decisions until the very end, and even in death, he was trying to claim a sense of defiant victory. But the real horror was just beginning. Just 10 days before his death, the dream of Nazi Germany dominating the world had become a nightmare. His empire was crumbling. Berlin, Hitler's dream, and the heart of his power, was reduced to rubble. There was destruction, fear, and death everywhere. Allied bombs rained down, and the Red Army was closing in fast. Hitler, now hunted like an animal, had retreated into a bunker 7 meters underground near Berlin's Brandenburg Gate. This wasn't just any bunker. It was designed by Hitler's personal architect, Albert Speer, to be his impenetrable fortress. Built in 1936 and reinforced multiple times, this concrete tomb was called the Führer Bunker. It was here that Hitler would spend his final days. But what happened inside would shock even his closest allies. The atmosphere in the bunker was suffocating: thick concrete walls, cold, damp air, overpowering darkness. It felt like a prison, a maze of small corridors and rooms that crushed the soul. Hitler's private space had 3 rooms: a meeting room for military briefings, a small room for Eva Braun, and a shared bathroom. Fear and depression filled every corner. A mechanical ventilation system roared constantly, creating a sound that drove everyone to the edge of madness. But something was happening to Hitler that no one expected. In those last 10 days, Hitler was deteriorating rapidly. Parkinson's disease made his hands tremble uncontrollably. To hide this shameful weakness, he kept one hand buried in his pocket. His hand shook so violently that writing became impossible. His face had become pale and exhausted. He looked 15 years older than his actual age. Officers who saw him were horrified by his appearance. His personal doctor, Theodor Morell, gave him daily injections, but nothing helped. Hitler was losing control of his own body, and everyone could see it. But while others planned their escape, one person made a decision that would change everything. Eva Braun refused to leave Hitler's side. For 13 years, she had been his secret mistress. Now, in his darkest hour, she chose to stay in this concrete hell with him. Letters found later reveal her disturbing devotion. She wrote to friends, "This place is terrifying, disturbingly happy, but I'm happy because Hitler is with me." Happy? In a tomb while the world burned above. Her routine was pathetic: arranging photographs, drinking coffee with Hitler, writing letters that would never be sent. But the letters reveal something chilling. She knew exactly what was coming, and she welcomed it. Outside, Berlin was dying. Allied bombers dropped their deadly cargo day and night. The Red Army was only kilometers away, crushing German forces. Despite having 900 tanks and 500,000 soldiers, Nazi Germany was collapsing. Hitler's 1,000-year Reich was ending after just 12 years. Soviet soldiers stormed through Berlin's outskirts. A German soldier later said when he returned to Berlin he couldn't recognize the city, just mountains of rubble and death. Even Hitler's own army knew the end had come. But then came the betrayal that would seal Hitler's fate. Hermann Göring, Hitler's right-hand man for over a decade, sent a telegram that would trigger the final countdown. Göring had been Hitler's chosen successor, his most trusted ally. He controlled the Air Force, the economy, everything. But now, with Hitler trapped in Berlin, Göring demanded power be transferred to him immediately. When Hitler read that telegram, something snapped. He flew into a rage unlike anything his staff had ever witnessed. He stripped Göring of every position, declared him a traitor, and ordered his immediate arrest. The man he had trusted with his life had stabbed him in the back. If Göring could betray him, who could Hitler trust? The paranoia was eating him alive. Then, on April 29, 1945, Hitler did something that stunned everyone in the bunker. At 1 a.m., in a ceremony that lasted barely 10 minutes, he married Eva Braun. His secret mistress of 13 years finally became his wife, witnessed by only 2 terrified officers. But why? Why marry someone when you're planning to die in hours? The answer is more disturbing than you think. Immediately after the ceremony, Hitler called his secretary and dictated his final will. The words he spoke would chill everyone who heard them. Eva and I have chosen death. Death is better than the shame of surrender. This wasn't love. This was Hitler's final manipulation. He wanted history to remember Eva as his devoted wife who chose to die with him, not as his hidden mistress. Even his last act of romance was calculated propaganda. The marriage would last exactly 24 hours. April 30, 1945, Hitler's final day begins. 6 a.m. The ventilation system roars like a mechanical beast. Hitler's hand trembles violently from Parkinson's. He hides it in his pocket, but everyone can see his shame. 8 a.m. The morning briefing brings catastrophic news. Soviet tanks are visible from the bunker. German forces are surrendering everywhere. Hitler explodes in fury, but something has changed. The madness in his eyes is different now, colder, more determined. 10 a.m. Hitler retreats with Eva to their private quarters. What they discuss, no one will ever know. But the staff notice something terrifying. Hitler has become unnaturally calm. 12 p.m. Lunch is served, but Hitler barely eats. An eerie silence settles over the bunker. Everyone can feel it. Death is coming. 2 p.m. Hitler does something that horrifies even his hardest followers. He calls for his dog, Blondie, his faithful German shepherd. In front of his staff, he forces the animal to swallow a cyanide capsule. He watches without emotion as Blondie convulses and dies in agony. He's testing the poison, making sure it works before giving it to Eva. The man who ordered millions of deaths shows no mercy for his own pet. 3 p.m. The final hour arrives. Hitler and Eva enter their private room. Outside, Soviet shells explode closer and closer. Inside, two people prepare for their final act. What happened next was heard throughout the bunker. 3:30 p.m. A single gunshot echoes through the concrete corridors. Hitler placed his pistol against his right temple and pulled the trigger. Eva, sitting beside him on their small sofa, had bitten down on cyanide seconds earlier. The marriage that lasted exactly 24 hours and 30 minutes was over. But Hitler's final act of control was just beginning. Following his detailed written orders, bunker staff wrapped the bodies in blankets. They carried them up those same 26 steps to the courtyard above. Everything had been planned, every document burned, every photograph destroyed. Their bodies were doused with gasoline and set ablaze while Soviet shells fell around them. Hitler's last victory, denying Stalin the trophy of his corpse. When Soviet forces breached the bunker hours later, they found only ashes and charred bone fragments. But here's where the story gets even more chilling. For months, the world wondered, were those really Hitler's remains? How could anyone prove the most wanted man in history was actually dead? The answer came from the most unexpected source. Hitler had a unique gold dental bridge covering his broken teeth. He was terrified of dentists, so this bridge was custom-made and unlike any other in the world. When Soviet investigators sifted through the charred remains, they found fragments of this golden bridge. It was the smoking gun that proved Adolf Hitler was finally dead. But the documents Rose discovered revealed something even more disturbing. Hitler's marriage to Eva wasn't a romantic gesture in his final hours. It was one last manipulation. He orchestrated everything, the timing, the ceremony, even their deaths, to control how history would remember them. Even facing annihilation, Hitler was still playing puppet master. His final 24 hours weren't about love or redemption. They were about a psychopath's last performance, writing his own ending while the world burned around him. The bunker still exists beneath Berlin's streets. Those 26 steps still lead down to the place where evil made its final stand. Hitler thought choosing death would make him victorious over his enemies. He was wrong. It just proved that sometimes the world's greatest monsters destroy themselves, and maybe that's exactly what Adolf Hitler deserved in his final 24 hours. To be remembered not as a conqueror, but as a coward who chose death over facing the consequences of his actions. But wait, this is just the beginning of the rabbit hole. If these hidden documents about Hitler's final hours left you speechless, you need to smash that subscribe button right now, because we're about to drop even more classified files that governments try to bury. Think Hitler's betrayal by Goering was shocking? Wait until you see what we uncovered about Stalin's inner circle. Spoiler alert, it makes Hitler's paranoia look like child's play. Drop a comment and tell us, were you more disturbed by Hitler's calculated marriage or his cold-blooded poisoning of his own dog? Your answers always blow our minds, and we reply to every single comment. And here's something that will keep you up tonight. Click on our next video, how Stalin's paranoia destroyed his own inner circle, because what you're about to discover will make Hitler's final day look tame. Trust us, you're not ready for what's coming next. Until next time, keep digging deeper into the darkness of history.